Welcome to Hotline TV, everybody. I'm Quinn McCord.
And I'm John Mercurio.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show today, Quinn. Although I'm going to have to pinch you, Quinn. Well, no, actually I won't. Because you're not wearing green. It's St. Patrick's Day.
But despite my name, I'm not Irish.
Yeah, despite your name. But enough about you, Quinn. It's March Madness, and we're nearing, or actually approaching halftime in most of the Senate primaries. Today we're taking a look at a few races where the competition is fierce, and neither candidate's got a slam dunk, if you will, into the general election. All right, so let's break it down into these brackets. Who will move on to the next round? Let's start, Quinn, first of all, with some breaking news. In Colorado, Western bracket, Colorado Senate. Let's talk about those caucuses yesterday, or on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Bennet lost. He expected to lose.
Bennet lost.
But, you know, I think his spin is somewhat correct, which is that he held his own and got over 40%.
Right.
If even the hardcore activists show some support for Michael Bennet, he's obviously going to have a lot more money than Andrew Romanoff.
Right. And Romanoff, look, also, people talk about him as the outsider, but this is a guy who had been the House Speaker in Colorado, so he clearly has some establishment roots in the state, not necessarily in Washington, not with the Obama political team, but clearly in the state. So, right, 51% I think was a little bit of an underwhelming showing for him.
I mean, I think Romanoff probably still has the charisma factor going for him, but he lacks the money, and at least does now. So.
What about on the Republican side?
The Republican side, you know, again, Jane Norton held her own. I think the main reason Jane Norton's probably going to win the primary is the fact that it's Jane Norton versus like a bunch of other dudes that no one has heard of. I mean, she may win by plurality, but.
So, you know, in other words, a lot of attention focused on these caucuses, but I think at the end of the day, sort of a non-story in terms of changing the dynamics, the overall dynamics of the Senate primaries.
Yeah, I mean, nothing happened in these caucuses last night that you're like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. You know, no one saw this coming.
Can you do that again?
Whoa.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you. All right, moving on to the Midwestern bracket. It's not really Midwestern, but that's sort of what fit with what we were trying to go with, if you understand us. Pennsylvania Senate. Ed Rendell coming out saying that Joe Sestak is going to get killed, that's a direct quote, he would get killed in the general election if he was the nominee against Pat Toomey. Of course, Rendell supporting Arlen Specter. Quinn, what's going on?
Well, you know, I think there's no question that if you had to be Arlen Specter or Joe Sestak or not, you'd rather be Specter.
Sure.
And that's I wouldn't have said that a year ago. I would have thought that Sestak would be running away with it, or at least be doing better. Now, that said, maybe we're being too optimistic for Specter. I mean, he's still ahead, but like, you know, Sestak's still sitting on $5 million, not running TV yet.
He hasn't gone negative in any real way. He's only got 8 weeks, less than 8 weeks till the primary. Why hasn't he? You know, he's gone negative on the web. He's run a couple of, I think, he's made some very good cases about different votes that Specter has cast as a Republican, endorsements for people like John McCain, Sarah Palin, George W. Bush. And those aren't catching on.
No, I mean, a year ago we were saying that the anti-Specter ads will write themselves, and that's still true. And I guess the whole issue is that Sestak has been sort of holding on to his money to do it. But still, you're right. Sestak hasn't laid the groundwork. He's lost all these endorsements that he probably could have fought harder for.
Right.
So I'm still going for Specter.
I'm definitely going for Specter at this point, which is new for me. I was a big Sestak guy at the beginning. Southern bracket, Quinn McCord, the Florida Senate race continues to amuse all of us on the Republican side.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, you sound wistful.
Charlie Crist, well, I got to feel bad for him because, I mean, he would have probably been a shoo-in for a second round as governor. He thought he'd be a shoo-in for Senate, and just one thing after another has gone wrong. And I think, you know, you and others have pointed out that, you know, Rubio is not a perfect candidate, but he's kind of Teflon.
He is Teflon, but look, we've seen the polling shift dramatically. I think Rubio at this point remains the front runner for the likely foreseeable future, especially if somebody like Jeb Bush, who does remain Teflon in Republican politics in Florida, does get behind Rubio's campaign. I think every indication indicates that's going to happen sometime in the next couple of months, especially if Rubio continues to surge like this. But with front-runner status comes scrutiny, and that's something that we've started to see happening to Rubio's campaign, and whether or not he can sustain that or withstand that scrutiny, I think, is an open question. Crist has. I mean, you've seen his poll numbers plummet, but that's where But I think the fact that he has already sort of faced that scrutiny, both in his governor's race and the beginning of this campaign, shows that, you know, he's at a core base of where he could be.
And of course, Charlie Crist himself is sitting on a huge pot of money that he hasn't dipped into.
Aren't we all? I'm sitting on a huge pot of money right now. Well, a huge pot of gold.
Huge something. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my God, that was rude. Quinn, let's move on. Northern bracket. Connecticut Senate, new Quinnipiac poll out. Linda McMahon, otherwise known as the sexy and that's not a mad kind of comment that's going to draw a lot of blogger outrage. That's the name of her boat, people.
Yes.
Remember mad Hillary Clinton, the beer?
Yes.
Yeah. Quinnipiac poll out showing Linda that was a backfire. That was a fail. Linda McMahon surging after a lot of money spent on television ads in the Republican primary. Rob Simmons trailing now. She's looking really good for the Republican nomination. She's looking really bad for the general election against Dick Blumenthal.
Well, it's not her fault. I mean, I think it just seems that the Connecticut voters just love Dick Blumenthal. He may have been in office for 20 years, but obviously that's seen as a plus, not a negative for him.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's an outsider year, and with a lot of money, you can really get your name ID up, and if you get some good ads, you know, people will like you. And you know, Linda McMahon has shown that.
I mean, is that what's working in her favor in the Republican primary? Is it that she has the money, she's been able to run the ads, really define who she is for the voter? Is it Rob Simmons' only real calling card is that he comes from Washington? For most people, that's all they're going to know about him. Is he served in Congress? He served in the CIA.
Yeah, I mean, I think he probably obviously needs to mention more of the CIA stuff than served in Washington. But I mean, he's been out of office a couple of years. He only represented 1/5 of the state. I mean, he's not as well known perhaps among rank and file Connecticut GOPers everywhere as perhaps we would know him down here. And he's been out of office, so memories fade quickly sometimes.
It's interesting. Two Republican women running in two very different states. Linda McMahon in Connecticut, Meg Whitman in California for California Gov. Both of them running general election campaigns basically against sitting attorney generals. Meg Whitman has spent a lot of money as well against Jerry in that race. She also leads her Republican primary.
Yes.
And she actually also leads Jerry Brown, probably someone as well known, if not better known, than Dick Blumenthal in California.
That's,
different races, oranges and apples.
But that's what we call in politics connecting the dots.
That's what they call in politics connecting the dots.
And
we're going to do that for you right now. Last word, Quinn McCord, who has run the best and worst campaigns, primary campaigns thus far, in your opinion? Quick, short answers.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, you take into account, given what they have to work with, I mean,
Sure.
Rand Paul, I mean, they have this guy,
Okay.
he has some eccentric views, let's just say, for a Republican primary. But, I mean, they were up with the first ad as soon as Trey Grayson was. It's been very active. They've been all over the place. Now, I'm not saying Rand Paul's going to win, but I mean, considering where he came from, he's been doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in Florida and give sort of an obvious answer, but I'm gonna say Marco Rubio has run probably the best campaign, and I think Charlie Crist has run one of the worst.
Ouch.
But given what he had to work with, look, this is a guy who hugged Barack Obama on television as he was endorsing the economic stimulus plan. So that was a hard road to follow.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, I'm afraid we are just right now out of time for today.
So until next time, we'll see you on Hotline TV.